I decided to make this video today because Juno just destroyed my finger. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. It really hurts. It's still stinging. Basically, she latched onto my finger and was like shaking it and wouldn't let go. Oh, that friggin' hurt. So as you may be able to guess, today the topic of this video is hedgehog bites. So I'm going to cover why hedgehogs bite, first of all, what the situations can be that will cause a hedgehog to bite, and why, most importantly, why biting hedgehogs are not common. So I get a lot of questions like, do hedgehogs bite? And the simple answer is no, but the more complicated answer is it's a secondary method of protecting themselves, and it's second to curling up in a ball. A hedgehog would always rather, well, not always, but most of the time a hedgehog would rather curl up in a ball to defend itself. Because, I mean, they do have sharp little teeth, I'll say that, but, I mean, their jaws aren't huge, they don't have any forceful striking power. And most importantly, when they roll out of a ball to bite, they're exposing their throats, which are, like, very soft and unprotected. And this is why I say to most people that for a hedgehog, from an evolutionary point of view, biting is just not, it doesn't make a whole ton of sense. Now this is just a theory because I'm gonna guess that extensive research has not been done into like wild hedgehogs and their biting because nobody wants to go out and get bitten repeatedly by a wild hedgehog. But evolution favors, if evolution were a person, it would favor those who survive long enough to reproduce more and pass their genetics on. And if you've got a hedgehog that's sticking its neck out and biting as a form of defense, again, they're more likely to get killed because they're exposing their soft areas, they're uncurling, and as a lot of people know who own hedgehogs, once they get into a ball like that, their muscles are strong, and it can be really, really hard to uncurl them. So the hedgehogs that stayed curled up in a ball when danger came around were more likely to survive and pass their genetics on. And that's kind of my theory on why hedgehogs don't bite very much or very often. Now there are circumstances in which hedgehogs may bite, and sadly it's become more and more common in the pet trade, and some reasons for that are we have interrupted the process of natural selection. So in the pet trade, when you buy a hedgehog from a pet store or a backyard breeder or a breeding mill, basically from an organization or an individual who's not monitoring the hedgehogs, you could be getting a hedgehog that was born with this predisposition for nipping. And I've met several, actually 3 or 4 hedgehogs that have this weird compulsive finger biting thing, and I'm going to use my friend Hannah as an example. She didn't know any better a long time ago and got her hedgehog Stan from the pet store. Stan is a girl, by the way, and unfortunately passed away, so rip in peace there, Stanalina. She was a really sweet hedgehog, honestly. She wasn't a jerk in the traditional sense. Like, she was really well socialized. Hannah worked a lot with her to bring her around, but there was one behavior that Hannah couldn't get rid of when it came to Stan, and that was finger biting. And it was super weird. Like, she brought Stan over a couple times, and Stan was running around on the floor just in circles, and I had my hand sort of dangling off the couch, and I was just talking, and then, ouch, I felt something latch onto my finger. And so literally, like, Stan hadn't even been threatened. She just saw my finger dangling and went for it. So basically in, let's say, take a hedgehog male situation, which is probably where Stan originally came from. Let's say you get a hedgehog that is born with this predisposition for finger nipping. In the wild, it would probably get killed off, or wouldn't reproduce. It wouldn't reproduce very much, and likely if any of its babies got passed on this weird behavior or learned this weird behavior from its mother, they would probably be killed off too. So that's why hedgehogs really aren't prone to biting, and a good breeder isn't going to breed a hedgehog that has a personality like that, because they have sharp teeth. Nobody wants to buy a hedgehog that's nipping. And so it's something that's really, really easily controlled in the wild and by a good breeder, because ultimately, like, breeding goals are to better the species that you're breeding. You're supposed to be selectively breeding them to have good qualities, to have good color, to have good personality. But in a breeding mill, these hedgehogs aren't monitored, so the ones that nip basically aren't killed off or aren't stopped from reproducing, and they're passing this behavior on and teaching, whether it's a genetic thing or a behavioral thing, they're either passing it along genetically or teaching it to their offspring. And so biting hedgehogs is more and more common. And Hana was actually telling me a while ago that she was curious about why Stan was always biting, and so she called around a few places, specifically targeting like large scale breeders, and she found out from a couple of them that, had maybe 100-200 hedgehogs at a time, that they would randomly get every now and then a hedgehog that was doing that was biting fingers. And of course they weren't breeding them, but it kind of just shows that it's something that can sort of pop up, and in the wild it would have been taken care of, but in an uncontrolled breeding situation it won't be. And so I tell people, if you get your hedgehog from a good place, if it's socialized, and if the breeder knows its personality, it is unlikely to bite. However, everybody knows Juno's friendly, she breeds, has made some great, really friendly, healthy, happy babies. So why did she just bite me? Well, I told you that biting is kind of a secondary, mode of defense, and I had Juno in the bathtub, and her ears were looking all gross at the ends, tattered and waxy, so I was going to clean them. So my method, and this might be something you guys want to try out for cleaning ears, is just putting her in some water so she can't curl up and I can actually get at her ears. But she can't curl up, and that's the main thing. So she just knows that I'm pulling on her ears and I'm kind of trying to get this waxy stuff off, and it's not feeling very good, and she wants it to stop. Tries to curl up, gets a snoot full of water, and so we're going to go to the second thing, which is I'm going to nip this person who's torturing me like this. And so she latched onto my finger and it hurt. And so it's a really good method for cleaning ears, but watch your fingers, because, she was feeling threatened, and I don't blame her, and I didn't exactly like putting her in that situation, but unfortunately, hedgehogs aren't the most graceful when it comes to grooming, so sometimes you gotta take care of them that way. Anyways, that was just a quick little informative video about hedgehog biting, and just remember, anytime you are forcing your hedgehog open or somehow stopping them from curling up in a ball when they're scared, that is a situation in which you might find yourself getting bitten. And be very careful, because hedgehogs can transmit diseases to humans through their bite. I believe, is it ringworm? I can't remember. Look it up. But just keep a close eye, like if you get bitten on your wound, and if anything weird happens with it, go see a doctor or a vet. I'm just kidding. Anyways, that's about it. Keep that in mind when you're handling your hedgehogs and going to purchase one. Please don't get one from the pet store, because the chances of having it being a biter will go up significantly. With that somber idea in mind, have a great day, and talk to you guys soon.